I want to say good morning to a couple of you who have joined us on our stream. We're very grateful as always, making sure that you join us for us to have some great conversations right here. And we have cash out. It goes with the Shoko *439#. We're going to give 1,000, 2,000 Ghana cedis to all the winners this morning. You have to try as many times as possible, become one of those lucky winners. And then you will also become one of those people who will be lucky. So you choose option 2. And Cash Money Cookie has promised a lot of money will be available for you. 1,000, 2,000 Ghana cedis for the winners this morning. Just to start your morning. And Mani Ni Mani, Prince Nana York is also joining us. And we're happy. Osaje Fukwesi and all of you. Laurentia Ama, I can see you. Please make sure you share the stream. Let's have some great conversations this morning. Yusuf Abdul Rahman, and great guy. Zelis Dwayne is watching us from the UK, and we've had some significant conversations already with our opening conversations on the Sami Jamefi issue currently being published across that he will be going to the office of the president today, and the chief of staff will be having him in his office. But Chairman Godwin Tamaklo, you're the group chief executive for the RAID group. Good morning to you. Chairman Prosper, wishing all the best for the day as well. Riches William Kokoti and the rest. But let's tell you that you're also part of this. And let me just introduce to you the chief executive for the MP. He's a regular right here on Monday. If he has the time, he's always here. And that's the thing I love about him. If he has the time also, he'll be on the key points. And so, but good morning to you.
Good morning.
As busy a time as you have.
Yes,
and I'm
good morning,
that you
Roland.
make time.
Good morning to my very good brother here. Roland, ours, like we always say, it's about service. The position where I am is by reason of the benevolence of the president. And anything that involves his administration, I have to unveil myself, as it were. If it requires that I speak to it, I will do. And I always say that it is he and Ghana that I serve, not myself. So once I have the time, I have to be here.
Fantastic.
And
thank you for coming.
And thank you so much for the opportunity.
We're grateful that you have them. You know,
many times yesterday was Mother's Day too.
Yes. So happy Mother's Day to everybody else. I sent a message actually to Cookie, and she also responded nicely. Cookie, thank you for the message.
Propaganda
and then lawyer Apia Dankwa.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah. How are you as well?
I'm doing great yourself. Let me take the opportunity to wish my brother a good morning here and congratulate him for the good job he's doing. Small. And also wish all Ghanaian mothers, or and I should add all women. Is it just the mothers or all
women? It's actually to all women. Young, all females actually. Because all females are women.
All women, happy Mother's Day. And the men who are playing motherly roles also wish them happy Mother's Day.
Right. That's a very controversial statement to
make. It's okay.
Propaganda independent. Well, and then also let me say good morning to one of the 7 who has been nominated to the Supreme Court, Justice Senyo Jamepe. Good morning to you, Dr. Anoche of the KAOD Consult, as well as Closer. Wishing all the best for the day.
Do you know
and
that
then Michael,
Michael Mante. There's a story untold in this country.
Yeah.
You know, my Lord Justice Senyo Jamepe. You know, he's been a judge from the Wa Tribunal. Wa in the 1980s. So continuously as a judge, over 30 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Spent almost 14 years as a Court of Appeal judge.
Wow.
Yes. 14 years as a Court of Appeal judge. And if you pick his judicial work, that's over 30 years.
Yeah.
I think one of the appointments or nominations done by President Mahama that I greatly salute him for is the nomination of His Lordship Justice Senyo Jamepe to the Supreme Court. I mean, this level of long service, dedicated work to this republic. Many lawyers want to be in private practice because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
But you have started, and guess what? He started as an attorney.
A state attorney?
State attorney in Ho, in those days. Went to Bolga. You can imagine in those days. And reason right today. So I just want to once again join you in congratulating him. Justice Sir Dennis.
Yeah.
Sir
He has
Dennis,
many books.
I mean, Sir Dennis taught me.
He did?
Yes, he was my teacher.
Oh, I see.
Yes, he was my teacher. Excellent judge. Justice, what do we call it? Akabuafo, Justice Bright Mensah. I mean, fantastic. I can just congratulate all of them.
Okay, so Sayi Jamape, and then also Ken Thompson of Dalex Finance. But today we're here to speak about some important issues. Started off early this morning with the Sami Jemfi issue, and then we'll continue also with the report that is now said to be the investigations following the outcome of the Akosombo dam spillage. And it looks like the compensation that the state needs to offer the victims has still not been undertaken. So we'll take a look at that as well, and subsequently some other interesting matters. But we're getting the news that the Chief of Staff might have summoning Sami Jemfi, etc. What do you make of the viral video subsequently where we are currently on the subject? Because he also has come out to give an apology on his official social media platforms.
Okay. So let me start once again by saying good morning to our cherished viewers. You see, we live in a political environment that had placed a higher, let me say, a higher standard, particularly on appointees of President Mahama. And I can appreciate the reason for this higher standard. If you look at where we are coming from, the 8 years of decay, among others, the ordinary Ghanaian has a higher expectation of all of us appointees of President Mahama. The other thing that President Mahama has also done is the opportunity given to we very young people to serve in his government. So in fact, overall, if you look at the ministers and the chief executive officers and deputy chief executive, almost 70% of us are persons who are less than 50 years of age. And so it's a great honor. It's a great privilege and honor for us to serve under the leadership of President Mahama. Unfortunately, on Saturday, like you pointed out, we have a good friend, Pastor or Prophet Niger Gezi. So Niger Gezi lost the dad the 1 week we had to. But I went to Ambassador Sampiale's 1 week as well. So it was then that, as it were, my good brother, Sami, met this Patricia, the prophetess.
Yeah, Agrada.
Good. And in the conversation, you know, Agrada has always had this issue with Owusu Bempah. So he admonished that, look, there's a need for peace. That's all. And then, subsequently, what happened next? Thankfully, my brother, immediately this matter was drawn to his attention. Less than 24 hours, has publicly come out to apologize to the good people of this country, that he acknowledges the fact that this thing had rubbed not properly with the sensibilities of Ghanaians. And to the extent that this had come to his attention, he's not going to justify what has happened. So he had rendered unqualified apology to the good people of this country, and also His Excellency the President. I strongly believe that that is the way to go. There's a typical saying in Ewe that the man who carries the pot to the riverside is most likely the person to break it. And you know, usually when you know, in the village, when you go to the riverside, it's always slippery because people, you know, fetch water and they get the place muddy and slippery. I think that the lesson for all of us, including my good self on this platform, is the fact that the standard that will be judged is a very higher standard. And so it requires that we will be sensitive to our environment and the things that happen around us. It's unfortunate it happened. My brother has demonstrated the maturity that is required by apologizing to the good people of this country and also His Excellency, the President. I'm just reading on CTFM that the Chief of Staff has equally summoned my brother. I would say that with a statement issued by my good friend and brother, Sami Jemfi, it will bring, with respect, finality to this raging stop. It becomes a lesson to all of us. So, I mean, that's based. I have read an online publication by someone, so the Code of Conduct launched by the President, this particular thing offenses. If you read, in fact, I have taken the Code of Conduct as a Bible. Immediately it came out, I had a copy, like a Bible, in my on my phone, so I can easily be going through it as a guide. Basically, what the Code of Conduct does is that for ministers, deputy ministers, CEOs, deputy CEOs, we have the responsibility on gifts, and usually it's about you receiving. The code is silent on you giving, and from the interaction on the video, it was rather Sami who offered, because they, you know, so the issue about a violation of the code with respect doesn't arise, because the code is completely silent on the issue of you giving. It's about you receiving. And so I would humbly plead that this morning, on behalf of my good friend, and incidentally I happen to be his lawyer as well, with sackcloth and ashes, we once again apologize for this indiscretion and hope that it will not happen again. As young people, I can only ask that the good people of Ghana will forgive us for this mistake. We will not justify it at all. Yes.
As a prelude to that Code of Conduct, the President did say that the appointee shouldn't act with opulence and should be very much measured in the way they act. And so in relation to the subject matter, whether receiving gift or you giving. But let me just introduce Dr. Tutubuahin. Good morning, and thank you for,
good morning, Roland.
for coming as well.
Yeah.
We're grateful.
And good morning to my colleagues.
So the question is now, it's about the optics, right?
So let me wish your lovely viewers a good morning again. My professor friend here, a good morning. Always a pleasure to be in his company. But I must say how proud I am with the team that I'm part of. As in this, it's not always that you go on TV or radio that you leave having learned something. And I think TV3 has done well with this solid
composition.
Here, I always
we're grateful
here,
that you honor our invitation.
I always leave here having learned something. Well, for me, you see, to be honest with you, my biggest takeaway from what has happened basically concerns the reaction of Ghanaians. And for me, I think it's very positive in the sense that we've been crying out for the right political culture that's participatory in nature, political culture that will hold leadership accountable. Because really, and I think I was having a discussion with my brother here. Ordinarily, if somebody is giving somebody a gift, and I think the amount involved was about 800, well, that's what Agada is saying. You understand? As in, depending on where you stand, you can say that, Sami is generous. You understand? But the people of the uproar stems from the fact that people are wondering that in the midst of the difficulties that we are going through, and a young man can have what's called $800 to share. I think no consideration has been had as to his work he's doing. But for me, the biggest positive for me is the willingness of Ghanaians to participate in this democratic agenda and their readiness to hold political leadership accountable. Also, my second takeaway is Sami's reaction, which is, in my view, is fantastic, and it sets an example as to how people in political leadership ought to behave. It's not just about the optics, you understand? Because we are building, or our focus is to build a system that will guarantee for us the rule of law. And we cannot succeed in that effort unless collectively as a people we build a political culture that will hold political leadership accountable. And that will also mean that people who have the privilege to lead us will recognize that they are accountable to us. And so where people in our bid to create that culture ask questions or interrogate their behavior, no matter how seemingly small those behaviors are, that our politicians will recognize that because they are using powers that belongs to us, then they must apologize. You understand? And I think I'm very happy with the way the people have acted. I must commend, but I must also commend what's called Sami Gyamfi for his unqualified apology, and also the leadership of the NDC, because you see, like we say in law, that justice must not only be done, it must manifestly be seen to be done. In the same vein, our commitment to holding leadership accountable and subjecting yourselves to that accountability must not only be done, it must manifestly be seen to be done. So I think over the course of the weekend, what has happened the government has taken full opportunity of seeing to show their unalloyed commitment to enhancing the right political culture, and I think our democracy will be the better for it. Because at the end of the day, the people of Ghana have told leadership that we are going to hold you to a very, very, very high standards, and the government has also told us that, listen, we are ready to use the powers you give us to create a government or a government that reflects the principles of probity and accountability. Now, I need to add that in this country, we play politics with everything. But I'm also a bit surprised that people want to compare this with the Honorable Abinadapa saga. They are very different, as in the circumstances are very different, and we must not play politics, in my view, with everything. I think that for me, I say the biggest take, what I take home is what has happened is the indication that the people of Ghana have given to our politicians. And listen, right now we are not going to play games. Yeah. We are going to hold you to an extremely high standard. If we see you dashing $100, we are going to question you. So
it means that now the standards for the ordinary Ghanaian for those in public office is very
good. Because if you read literature on how you sustain democracy, I think it is beyond contestation that you can only sustain your democracy if you have a citizenry that participates in the democratic effort. Understand? And our role is to hold people we've granted our powers to accountable. And that's exactly the indication that people of Ghana have given to our politicians now. And I said another very massive positive is the reaction of Sami Gyamfi. And I must commend him for how he's reacted. And I hope that he and everybody who has been granted the privilege of using the powers we have granted them will understand that they must not depart from the purpose of those powers, that is, to serve the interests of the people of this country.
Dr. Tutubuahin.
Yes, Roland.
A lot of uproar on social media. Sami has apologized, though, but now, well, what we're getting from some sources in the media is that the chief of staff has hauled him before him. What do you make of the reactions for and against? Those say that hang him and let him hang there to dry.
All right. So once again, good morning to our viewers and social media followers. And I think that yes, the reactions from government, the reactions from the NDC base, and the reaction from the public are all indicative of the fact that, government appointees would have to be careful, and they should observe good ethical moral standards, going forward. And, as Eduji and lawyer have all indicated, lawyer Piadanko have all indicated, it's about the public now, setting a new direction for our governance structures. All right. And what it means is that people are now interested, or they are becoming actively involved in politics, as against the days where, people could behave anyhow. Government appointees would take certain laws and authority into their own hands and call the bluff of the ordinary Ghanaian. The introduction of the Code of Conduct for Government Appointees, is a check. And as lawyer Eduji said, he has made it his Bible. And so it is a call on all public office holders, including government appointees, to equally read these standards. And there's a particular place that I like, when you check the ministerial conduct.
You mean the Code of Conduct? The
Code of Conduct.
Okay.
There's a section that is 1.1. And the 1.1D, I just want to be quick with it. And this is what it says, that ministerial or government appointees should act honestly and in a manner that maintains government's integrity, objectivity, and impartiality. And my focus is on the integrity, right? Because integrity is everything. So for the NDC government to succeed or to probably fail in government depends on acts of its appointees and supporters, its leadership, on maintaining the integrity of the NDC in government. And that is very important. So any other acts, probably including giving out monies or receiving monies, probably whether we are giving it as a gift or receiving it as a gift or giving it as a bribe, would undermine the basic integrity of the party and government. And if you are not careful, that would be a problem for your government. And then when we check 1.2E.
1.2E.
E, yes.
I want to go along with you. So
exactly.
Since you are the lecturer here, so that will be.
Yeah, so that one also says that
I don't know why
comport himself or herself in a manner befitting the trust and confidence placed on him or her.
Comport himself or herself in a manner befitting
exactly.
the trust and confidence placed in him or her.
Yes. So
why is that significant?
Yes. So trust is very important, just as integrity is important, right? Now, for voters to, follow you, the 1.7 million voters, to follow you and, keep you in trust. It is about your behavior and the confidence that you have in it, all right? So anything, any actions or inactions that would take away this kind of confidence and integrity, I mean, it will actually affect, the moral fiber, of the party. And if you are not careful, voters, the way they are behaving these days, is that they can decide to switch. And if they are switching and it becomes a kind of exodus, and that one will be very disastrous.
They go in droves.
Yes.
And mass.
Mass, So I feel that it is very instructive for, the government appointees to be circumspect and then actually focus, on the things that they are supposed to be doing, whether you are out, whether you are even speaking on phone. Because these days, technology has come a long way to the point that if you are not even careful, a joke that you are sharing with a colleague, a friend, when it hits, the public space, it will create a lot of problems for you. Now, to the reactions from the government side, I feel that it has been swift. the call by, you know, what's the name? Chief of Staff, you know, to summon, you know, lawyer Sami Jemfi, you know, probably to listen to him or probably to caution him is in good order. I wouldn't say that, you know, the public sentiment that the man should be sacked or should be relieved of his position, you know, is something that should be done. All right. As you move, you know, people will pick experiences. People will fall. But the most important thing is that when you fall, you rise up, and then you probably do things better next time. And so it is good that it has happened, because at least Lawyer DG has confirmed that for him it is a sign, you know, it is a caution to him in particular. And so I believe that all other appointees will also know, because if Sami's experience hadn't occurred, what it means is that probably some people might have done something in future which probably will not augur well for the party at all. So this is a wake-up call, all right, to everyone, you know, to there. And I feel that in as much as, you know, the Chief of Staff has summoned Sami Jemfi, you know, before him, I think that probably certain facts shall be laid bare to him, and he would also accept whatever criticism coming to him in good faith, and it will help him to order or reorder his steps, you know, going forward. And I think that it is the future that matters, you know, but not the present.
It is the future that matters and not the present. We also have to move on to a substantive issue, which is about the latest report we're getting about the investigations into the Akosobo Dam spillage, and subsequently leading to the outcome that the victims of the dam spillage have not been adequately compensated, resettled, and then well catered for. And that's a responsibility of the government of Ghana. So what is being done or needs to be done to ensure that there's some level of equity, and they also get to be part of, well, when it comes to emergency relief, because we know the actions that we're undertaking. We did that, Media General, the whole of Ghana as well. And you take a particular focus for the North Tong Member of Parliament, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, at the time, who is now the Foreign Affairs Minister. A lot of mobilization done, not only for those who were downstream, but also upstream as well. You can find that, well. So we had the committee that had a membership. It was chaired by Engineer Kekofi. If you know Engineer Kekofi very well, one of the leading engineers, subsequently was for VRA, a very experienced man. There was Kwame Janto as well, Engineer Kofi Ellis, Engineer Kweku Akosa, Sapon Akosa, and then we had also legal practitioner, and then also to the secretary to the committee, lawyer Georgette MFA Fuga, and the terms basically was so you get to the outcome, and their recommendation was that there was the need to establish a controlled spillage floodplain, very technical in nature. So we'll have an engineer who will join us on the subject. Enhance emergency preparedness. And so they also found that high turnover and divisions amongst political appointees, rather to avert that, creates a collaborative task force comprising MCEs, MPs, and stakeholders to focus on disaster preparedness. And then they needed also to improve communication. So the channels for communication needed to be clear regarding when disaster is approaching. Let's say you look at the dam, and then you look at the channel, and if the water levels are high, what needs to be done by way of information to the affected communities. For those of us who have either lived or either worked around the various banks of the Volta River, or the lake in itself, and subsequently in communities that tend to live downstream, you find that they are always in trouble. And also there was the need to resource NADMO. You still speak to NADMO and they say that, look, it's a problem. And their collaboration with district assemblies, etc., very important as well. Lack of localized emergency preparedness. So in the communities, they also found that the various areas, the districts that bordered all the tributaries of the lake, so to speak, were not disaster ready. And they're implementing engineering solutions for flood management. And then, of course, the subject of compensation. There was the need to make sure a compensation is undertaken. We've spoken to some of the community members. They say that, well, they were given some Momo cash or something, but they haven't really been briefed on compensation, you know. So that's it. All right. So that's why we're here today. We've been joined by an engineer as well to help us do the conversation right this morning. And so quickly, I'll just put the spotlight on him. And he's an engineer, so he's going to help us also try to navigate all the issues. Abdullah Mahama, good morning to you, engineer. How are you? Fine. Great. And, so you speak loudly for me, okay? Right. Okay, that'll be fine. So I'll start with you, okay, because you are the engineer. And the accusation at the time was that the Volta River Authority and its section that does the awareness creation, the disaster preparedness, they undertake the annual information dissemination to the communities. They say they did that. The accusation was that they did that late in the day, but they say that's the normal time they do it. What really, per your findings in this report, gives you the inclination that perhaps we need to change the structure of the way the VRA operates with the communities and the way it manages the dam, so to speak?
Well, I'll say a good morning to your cherished viewers and to my co-panelists. In fact, before this report came out, I've been on a lot of stations just articulating exactly, or let me say, about 99% of what the report came out with. When the flood waters inundated the communities in 2023, we took some initiative to move there as engineers, non-governmental engineers in a certain group, to just have to abreast ourselves with the situation.
In your private capacity?
Yes.
Okay.
But we went upstream, and we came to the sector, and we came downstream. And like the report is just saying, if you recall, I think I spoke to your station, 3FM, on this issue in 2023. There are some factors that we have to situate in context. Like the leader of the committee said, whatever it is, the spillage has to be done. If we don't do the spillage, just like what happened in Libya in 2022, where over 22,000 people died just overnight because the negligence to calculate or to assume that the dam was at its capacity. The spillage was delayed a little over, and then just overnight, the dam collapsed. I washed every human being on this path to the sea. And within a matter of 48 hours, that was about 22,000 people had died. And so it's like a necessary evil. We have to spill. When we get the inflow, we have to get it spilled. And in 2022, for instance, there was this, there's a nationwide chart, let me say the international chart, that gives you a probability of the expected rainfall within every community that comes into the gorge. And when you have that chart, the VRA have their local chart. Every single day, there's a team that monitors the inflow and what time to actually spill the water. Let me just say that, you see, the surface area of the Akosombo Dam is about 3.6% of the total surface area of Ghana. And the length of the Akosombo Dam is like traveling from here to Sunyani and back. And that's the second largest man-made lake in the world. And so when we allow the sentiment to take us, and when we look at the fact that we are losing properties, unfortunately we are losing lives when the spillage is done, with or without the control, when the dam collapses, in fact, the 9 districts that the report captured, in a flash, there will not be anybody existing again. So it's a necessary evil. But now we come to why the spillage was done in that manner. In fact, the report actually does not actually single out one particular agency to be responsible for the spillage and for the devastation. There was this sensitization programs done before. But the question I asked was that even though they said there were international bodies who were also part of the census to augment their local effort, there were no canoes or those flash boats because at that time there was no water. So that part of the evacuation was absent. But if you look at the system, the VRA have to tighten their communication with the local assembly. I heard the president's the comment that he made regarding the sacking, or when you feel that the authorities are not working in line, they may be removed. I have a small diversion to that. Okay. Not the sacking, but the local authorities have so much power. The VRA would communicate the information to the local assemblies. The NADMO has the power. Then the local assembly, in the subsequent or prior to the evacuation, the spillage areas are supposed to be identified. In fact, this was identified about 60 years ago, that when we get to this stage, we are going to spill X quantity of water in this area. When we allow the settlement to be developing closer, just like Wager, to be developing closer to the path of the spillage, that will not be the power of the VRA, because they don't have that power to actually move in physically to get the people out. But the local assembly have that power. In fact, the Land Use and Special Planning Act of 2016 at 925 gives the local assembly so much power to either alter, abate, demolish a structure which is found to be a nuisance to the environment or the public right of space. That power is with the local assembly. So the report, if you look at the report, the lack of communication, in fact, in this case, they have to tighten the communication between the VRA and then the local assemblies. And then the local assemblies will now, with the task force, will do the needful. In fact, if we have noticed that we are still expanding towards the spillage path, then we're going to meet this recurrence every single year. What I said was that with the depletion of the ozone layer and the climate change, even the sea is rising about 2 cm per year. And you're also bringing the inland water, which end up in the sea. Now, when the sea is rising, it means that the retention time for the water to spill or to enter the sea takes a longer period. So, if you do not control it properly, or we don't also try to see that upstream, we're going to have other forms of irrigation system where we may have dams, diversions, properly designed topographical dams, so that once I know from Burkina I'm receiving X volume of water, how do I intercept these waters and make use of them in my flat areas? It's so sudden that we have flood in the northern regions and then we have extreme drought in the northern regions. So if we do not intercept this water and make good use of them at localized sections, then I think we're going to have a serious problem with this kind of water.
This is purely an engineering solution. Yeah. And then we have the legal aspect of making sure that we don't have people building on waterways, at least when it comes to the channels that directly have a link to the dam. Okay? So why haven't we been able to do some of these things?
You see, when the dam was constructed, all this comes into what we call the as-built drawing. When the dams are completed, they will do this and then give it to the the agencies who have the power to do the prevention of people coming to stay within those areas. And we've heard this over and over again. I don't know whether this report, I'm yet to finish reading the report, whether compensations at the time, because you are taking, even though it's a government property, you are taking a land from individuals to construct. And so when you are done with the construction, before you even start with the construction, adequate provision for compensation ought to be given. Like in the road sector, for instance, if we earmark Accra to Kumasi Road, and I'm taking the ER which gave 90-meter reservation of land, if I'm going through everybody's land, adequate compensation has to be given to the person prior to the construction. So we have to understand whether those local areas were duly compensated about 60 years ago. Yeah. And then if there's an encroachment on those lands, then we have to be a bit stern to make sure that we have to take the human face a bit off in developing those land now, that no resident is allowed to actually move into those areas to continue to construct when there is enough information that those people or those lands have been adequately compensated in the 60s. If we do that, then where we are getting to with the incoming rains or the depletion of the ozone layer, the climate change. Because now you see, last 3 years, China received the highest of its flood in about 140 years. Over 140 years. It happened in France. It happened. Look at what happened in USA. So now, even with the global Metro giving us their warnings or their information, they can't be exact, because either we have extreme rain or we have extreme drought. You can have the projection like 2022, where the VRO were told that X volume of water was to be received. If they had done the control spill at the time, with that expected volume, would have been having a serious challenge with the dam by now in terms of the shortage of the level. But rather in 2023, the volume of water that was received was about, let me put it in the practical terms, like a polytank, 55,000 liters polytank, about 2 billion.
You mean the highest, the biggest?
The volume.
The biggest of the polytanks?
Yes, the 5,000.
That's how much rain.
That's how much rain was spilled.
2 billion.
2 billion times the polytank, the 5,000 polytank. In fact, 1.97 billion times. I want people to understand the volume that was spilled. So you can imagine the volume that was actually received in the dam and why they had to do the spillage. And like I said, if the dam was not spilled, the Akosombo Bridge, the one that goes to the Volta region, the Pond Dam itself, and then about 9 districts, including Temakomi 25, was going to be affected. That was a modeling. And that would have happened in about a flash. And so,
which other areas would have been affected apart from 25? Because those are areas I'm interested in.
So the report gives
Ashama come to 24.
No, you see, he's afraid that you mentioned Ashama and Zemu. That's why.
Come to 24, East Legon Hills, those places.
So look at this man.
Are you coming to East Legon? I'm showing you because of.
No, not because of it. He doesn't.
So you see, so in fact, the district, you know these names, I'm sure. My brother Dudu will help us with the names of those communities. Yeah. In fact, I did one we're doing the rise of the flood, the tidal waves. This time we mentioned it was a similar area.
Because I covered some. Was it 2022?
Yes, it's been happening. The Glife one happened about 2023, the same time the year. So you see, towards the central region area, because of their higher elevation of the rocks, they may not experience the flood, whatever the tidal waves, in about 100 years. Because with the 2 cm increase every year, it may take 1,000 years for the Elmina Castle area to have such a problem. So in all, we think the report is good, and I'm praying that government would make it public like we are doing here. Let us go through it. Let us critique as engineers. Let us see whether there are some areas that we have to do more or to maybe come down with some of the comments, and then make it a document that will be workable. Okay. You know, there has been so many reports that end up on the shelf. In fact, Professor Mamu about 40 years ago, he said that when it rains in Ebri, it takes about 3 days before the water gets, the flood water inundates Accra. But now in 30 minutes, the water from the uphill get to Accra. These are reports that we have to make it so that students of hydro and flood would keep on learning and improve on it.
Fantastic. Anyway, we tend to do this annually, each time there's a... But, I mean, you are very much used to, familiar with communities that are dotted along. Myself, I went to school in Pando, so I know that when you go to the Toko, you want fish, etc. You always... But when the tides increase, then you know that you're in trouble.
I always say I'm a son of the water, whether river or lake, with a mother from Kratchi. You know, that's one of the areas that had to be resettled. Right to staying in Pando, going to Toko as a young boy, going to Kwevetonu, right to Mefe, Bato, Aveyime, Sugakope, and the rest. So, quite clearly, Adan and the estuary, quite clearly, when this event happened, I must say the people who were directly affected are persons who I relate with. And you know what is being compounded? So you notice that the place that was most devastated was Mefe. Because that is where the Volta Lake meanders. So the meandering happens at Mefe. If you are from Togome, right into that end, where the Volta, so that's where it actually does the turn before it comes toward the sea. And so because that place is low-lying, it was, I mean, if you were there, the cemetery, the Mefe cemetery, all were inundated. The cemetery, you know. And this is something that they have not seen in many, over 40 years. It had never happened. And so it took everybody by surprise. But like he pointed out, in building up the engineering conversation, it just didn't happen. Unlike the Libyan one, that happened in a flash. You know, because it's an engineering thing, and you also needed to protect the integrity of the dam, that if you don't, the impact would have been more. I mean, like he pointed out, getting as close as to Community 25 and others is really, really a serious matter. The report details what it calls poor planning, what they call the lack or weak coordination between agencies, NADMO, the military, the VRA itself, because apparently, over the period, the Volta Lake had become very silted, getting closer to Adan. And that is really where it's supposed to be entering the sea. And so at the point where it's supposed to be entering the sea, it's supposed to be deeper. But because of silting, it had become more shallow. So there's a greater tendency, once the volume goes up, for it to spread to households. I think that the lessons, for me, are the most important at this juncture. Our people have suffered enough already. What we can do is that in the next 20 years, 15 years, 30 years, this beautiful report, and I need to thank my sector minister, the Honorable John Jinapo, in putting this committee together. Because the learning is very, very, very important. And thankfully, the chair, Engineer Kirk Kofi, is an experienced engineer, having risen through the ranks at VRA, became the chief executive officer, and has a better institutional memory relative to the issues and how these matters have been coordinated in the past. It's an experience that you enjoy in reading the 120-page report. Well tailored, it raises the critical issues. So going forward, ours is to ensure that we coordinate issues well. Another matter which is raised here had to do with the issue of compensation. Up apparently VRA has a whole department in charge of desilting the lower end of the lake or river or whatever you call it. It appears they need to revamp that particular thing. That periodically they go to the tail end and begin to do the desilting. It's important that we get that done annually to avoid this disaster happening. You see, I say something, like he said, as for the volume of water, you and I, we don't control those matters, climate change issues. The man-made response is what we should guide against. They can't say, "Asetinapa." So the danger is that because sometimes these things happen after 20 years, 15 years, we tend to forget. Then it happens, boom. Then we don't know how to get our way out. Thankfully, the Honorable Finance Minister, the Honorable Keselato Forsen, has in the 2025 budget made a provision almost 200 million for the persons affected by the flood all along. And you see, this is a river or lake that starts from more or less Burkina, right? And it affects about 5 regions. That's what a lot of people don't know. Oti, Volta, Greater Accra, and the northern regions. So the impact is always great. So my prayer is that this budgetary allocation that has been made for compensation will not be on the books only, but will translate into the lives of the people. I cannot also finish this without personally thanking the chiefs and people of Mepe, Bato, Aveyime, and more importantly, the Mepe, they have a union of the citizens of Mepe, home and abroad, because that was the epicenter of the disaster. When it happened, they stood up to help their own citizens. Corporate Ghana didn't leave the people within that enclave out. Food, drink, shelter, among other things. They were there. Individuals, churches. In fact, I must say, it was one real occasion where Ghanaians, irrespective of tribe, religion, the national chief imam, almost everybody came in to help our people. So on this occasion where we had to discuss this matter, I personally want to thank those people for the intervention in those critical moments. Our people will say, Maune Rami, Akbar. Because if it had not happened, the aftermath would have been terrible. And so you notice, like he pointed out, in Libya, we had about 22,000 people dying. That's even on a bigger scale. Thankfully, in this particular one, the deaths were basically very low. And that I want to thank everybody for how we responded to the people living in along the Volta Lake in this moment. In fact, I remember, you know, it's one place that people do a lot of fishing. From Mpakadam, downstairs, right into Atimpoku. You see the people put either the hatcheries or whatever just along. Billions or millions of Ghana cedis of investment in fish farming and others were all lost in the process. I strongly believe that government will intervene in a manner as to restore the economic well-being of our people. Look, when we're growing up, the kind of things our parents were doing is fishing. And, you know, it's a typical thing among the tomboys, I mean, those days. They will say, at the school, hello, Aklodo. You understand? They will ask you these 2 questions. At the school, hello, Aklodo. Would you go fishing or you go to school? You have to make your choice. And I remember those days, if you said you go to school, they'll tell you, Dodoto, you understand. You are lazy. You are lazy. So these are things that is God's gift to my people there. They see and then they leak. But unfortunately, they have become two things that usually worry us, either through the tidal wave or the other issues. So I just want to commend the people who put this report together for such a detailed work. I know my minister would basically take this to a higher level and ensure that all the concerns captured in this report will be addressed going forward, together with the compensation.
But this time, compensation should have been in the process of having been given, if not fully or partially. And for us to, is it over a year or so or two, now be complaining and then having a certain traction from a report and receiving it to say, look, compensation hasn't been given to victims. Looking at the magnitude of the disaster.
But, you know, even surprised that after a year, it's not that we are getting a report. Because when yesterday, Shadrach sent me the report, the first question I asked myself, that is it the case that there was an earlier report and when John became president, he asked a different group to do a report. So even common report, it's taken us more than a year to get common reports, how much more compensation. In fact, reading through the report, one thing became clear to me, the lack of leadership, the lack of commitment to leadership to provide their side of the contract. Because I know over the last week, there has been a lot of discussion about social contracts. But the biggest social contract is the social contract that people can assign with whoever becomes the president. That we are going to give a bit of our powers to you, and you are going to use those powers we give you to create a country where our right to life, our right to our liberties, our right to pursue our own happiness will be guaranteed. Unfortunately, in this country, the government has not been playing its role, and I think the last government, took us to the all-time low in terms of the obligation that is placed on government. Because when you read the report, the things that is clear, as in the poor planning, weak coordination. The bit that even hit me hardest was the political interference, and to the extent that even in terms of the aid, priority was given to areas or committees that were perceived to tilt towards the political party of the president. That as in those things should not be tolerated. It must be condemned in no uncertain terms. Yeah. And when you are present over the entire country. You are present over all Ghanaians. You are present over not just over the members of your party. You are present over even the opposition.
Yeah, of course.
You understand? And in my view, this report exposes fundamentally the lack of commitment on the part of the people we gave our powers to give real leadership. Edwin quoted Asetinapa Emma Arefie. But as in, when you are a leader, you need to plan. Because like you said, there's no issue as to the need, as in the need to spill. And I think that is not in contention. Whether or not we should spill or not, it's not in contention. That was the only way. But because of no planning, because of proper enforcement of the local, because you quoted rightly a law about the powers that the local government has. I've always said that real governance is at the local level. Yeah. You understand? And as leaders, you must deliberately decentralize government. And when you say decentralization, it also means fiscal decentralization. Now we have a decentralized system, just in name. Yeah, we have decentralized as in just in name. Because when you talk about fiscal decentralization, as in what is the extent of that? Because when you don't have the fiscal power, or the fiscal power is so little that it becomes insignificant, then how can they be enforcing some of these things? Because they make plans, but they can't enforce. Or where they are going to enforce it, as in you have somebody up there trying to remote control them. For me, and we should all go and read this report, and then I understand what poor leadership can do to all of us. And like I said, I don't want to be too repetitive. But I think it was this incident that caused the president to go and say that I was not supposed to even come to you because you do not, you do not vote for me. And the report is saying that indeed, when it came to the response, one of the key considerations was the political alignment of the areas. I don't know, why are we doing this to ourselves as a people? To think that after a year and a half, after this disaster happened, an opportunity to realign very critical bits of our governance structure, especially decentralization. You have to take close to a year and a half before the president of the land or a change of government, before a committee is constituted to look into why this disaster happened. Is it a case that the previous president was not committed to the people of the people around the Volta region because they do not align to his political party? You understand? We can't do this to ourselves. It must end. This kind of politics that divides instead of unite must end, because the repercussions are too dire. You understand? And I mean the compensation. Is there a case that they have not been compensated also because one, no report. See, let's say things as they are. Are you not worried that you have to take a change of government before a committee is even set up? You have to take a change of government. Yesterday, when Shadrach sent me this, I had to go and check quickly. There's a case that a report was granted, or a committee was set up, and maybe
and given
normal politics, and so and I realized that there has been no investigation into why what happened. And you understand? So is it a case, as we should say, is it a case that the president did not have commitment to our brothers around the voter league because in his mind they do not belong to his political party? Is it a case that they are not even, the issue of compensation never came up because of same? We need to be honest. There's hypocrisy and lots of others as we can't continue, because if we do not force our politicians to grant proper leadership that will be beneficial to all Ghanaians, they will be destroying our country. They will be destroyed, because when you read the report, like I said, the bits that, in fact, I think there's a portion. It's what? Weak coordination. It's political divisions among district chief executives, municipal chief executives, members of parliament, hindered effective disaster response, creating confusion at critical moments. And check page 111. You see, multi-party democracy is a plus. It's not meant to be a minus. I don't know, for instance, I don't share the same political largely with Eduji. But what binds us together is our common love for our country. So that because I don't belong to Eduji's party, anything he says, whether it's good, whether it's right, I should oppose. Oh, we need to highlight the things that unite us as a people. But because of the breakdown in communication and cooperation based on political divisions, people have been displaced, people's livelihoods have been lost. You saw the disaster, lives have been lost. Yeah. And it shouldn't matter whether we didn't have 22,000 people. If even one person lost their life because of this, then the people who fail to communicate only because of the divisions in their political must not only bow their heads in shame, but must also hold them accountable. We must hold them accountable.
Well, it's more about the lack of proactiveness of
why?
Individuals and offices,
because of the politics
in relation to the disaster. So to speak.
Not just that. That's what I'm saying. That too. One, they have not been proactive. And that was my first point.
And your position is that
a clear lack of commitment on the part of people we give our powers to. Yeah, because as it's now, you must be planning, because you know that there'll be a time, because I think that in 1968 there was something even bigger than this. In 1968. I mean, I don't know if that one caused more disaster than...
Because there were no settlements along the channel.
At that time, I think the population of this country was about 6 million. At that time, the population of Canada was about 6 million at that time.
60, maybe 7 million, because at the independence it was 6, 5, 6.
Around 66, when Kwame was being overthrown, it was 6 million. So you, let's say, it went to 6.5 million. Yeah. The point is that you are, when you become a leader, beyond you, it's also your responsibility to plan for the future. You must be proactive. But people, they just come and enjoy the position without serving. Two, I'm also saying that the mere fact that you have to take a change of government for a committee to be set up to look into why this didn't even happen in the first place is a cause for worry, especially when you place it in the context of what the Nanado said, that I didn't even have to come here because you don't vote for me. And I'm saying that the lack of compensation should also be looked within the same context. And then finally, when you go into the report, it's saying that there was a weak coordination among key stakeholders, and that weak coordination among the key was premised on their different political, because it says what political divisions among the district chief executive, the MCs, and the MPs. And I'm saying that when you are elected into political office, you need to understand that your sole consideration is what is in the best interest of Ghana, of all Ghanaians. Not your political party, of all Ghanaians, so that if that is your concern, then that we have a common agenda, then why should political divisions be the reason why there was weak coordination among the key stakeholders? I'm saying because of this weak coordination, lives have been lost, livelihoods have been lost. You understand? And it's not, for me, it's not about we just having this political commentary. In the light of the principles of probity and accountability, those people must be made to answer questions.
Can I supply some information, a quick one? So on the 30th day of April, 2025, my sector minister, Honorable John Abdullahi Jinapo, MP for Yape Kusogu, appointed Brigadier General Ishmael Ben Korte, retired, as the coordinator for the disbursement of compensation to victims of the Akosombo Dam spillage. So just for public information that we have gone beyond the report to putting up the Akosombo Dam spillage compensation team, and Brigadier General Korte retired is the coordinator for that. So that is the progress, and this was just on the 30th of April.
In fact, when you go to page 14 of the said report, and to show you how we are destroying our country on the back of partisanship, when you go to page 14, it says that political interference delayed critical relief interventions and politicized the distribution of aid, undermining community trust. Why are we doing this to ourselves?
In fact, the MEPE development, whatever, are not really happy with some of these details. So even as we're on the platform, they are engaging that sometimes they even want greater community engagement relative to that, and that there was over-reliance on NADMO data. So the community involvement is always key. I mean, so as to carry the community along. But I can understand where the political interference. Most of the MPs on that stretch are NDC MPs. And at that time, the DCs were...
But should it be an issue?
No, I agree with you. I agree.
What kind of country are we building? Should it be an issue?
Disasters unite us.
No, should it be an issue? In fact, the bid to transform our country should be the ultimate unite. So should it matter that you are NPP and I'm NDC? When the lives of people are at stake, what kind of country are we building? You understand? So listen, we need to be serious as the people. You understand? That our ultimate goal is to build this country. And it should not matter whether you are MP. In fact, that excuse, as in, I don't want to use some negative words here, but it gets me mad. You understand? As in, we are Ghanaians. Why should the fact that you are an MPP or NDC be the reason why people should lose their lives? You understand? So for me, it calls for us to reflect as the people. Now, what kind of country do we want to build? You want to build a country that's an MPP country, an NDC country, or what? Or we want to build a one united Ghana where all of our ambitions can find a place in. You understand? So, You see, the people of Ghana need to set up. The same way in which we are going to hold this government accountable. And I'm very encouraged by this Sami Jenfi issue. We should be aware because we are the only people who can build our country. And we should not allow partisan politics to divide us.
The disbursement committee sits at Energy Commission. So for opinion leaders within, apparently they've even started work already. And they've started from Shaiwo Sudoku coming. Remember that Bo Akuse, that enclave, they are all victims of this. So just by way of public information.
What lessons can we pick from this? That if such disasters do happen, subsequently then we could have the effort by organs of states, who then will have to come to the aid. We had the Apiati incident as well. There was is it a mining explosive that subsequently exploded many people, and so that even though some effort has been made, it's still also there hanging in the balance as well. So generally, what lessons can we pick from this, having hindsight of what the recommendations and then the findings of the committee is?
Roland, it's a shame.
Which one is a shame?
Attitude towards flood. It appears to me that we are not learning as a country, and we are not equally doing anything, to probably, as it were, reduce certain incidental effects of flooding going forward. I mean, engineer was talking about China experiencing high volumes of water about 3 years ago. Yeah. I think just after the COVID, right?
Yes.
And it was worse. The volumes, watching it on CNN, it was so massive. And I was at a point in time wondering that if it had happened in Ghana, what would have happened to us? All right. Elsewhere, you travel, it rains heavily. You step out the next morning or just after the rain, you don't see anything. What has happened to us? I mean, engineer is here. You probably may want to explain gutters, the size of our gutters. Where are the gutters leading to? Who takes care of the gutters? And all these things. I mean, you see, 17 serious floods since 1930. And if you add the numbers in terms of life lost, property lost, it's overwhelming. All right. If you study the report tells you about low-lying, lands around the Akusumu Dam, right? And nobody is telling anybody that where you have settled can be disastrous. I mean, traveling on the northern region,
the corridor.
You get to Savannah, and it is amazing how anytime that there's a spillage from Burkina Faso, houses are drowned. You still get people just after that going to sleep in these same houses, and nobody is saying anything. At the point in time, I saw houses in river bodies.
In water.
In water. And don't you have people to check? So our attitude is that let disaster happen. Then, of course, we will put in a fire service, attitude. Is that how we want to build our country going forward? I think that LG is here, President Mahama has been listening to us. And when we talk about, building the nation that we all wanted, or we want, okay, I think that it's time for the president to set the pace right for us as a country, so that when standards are high, other presidents coming in future will follow suit. All right. And I feel that we need to call a spade a spade. All people living around that enclave should be moved. We were talking about the 1968 flood. 5 times the volume that was spilled in 2023. He's talking about the largest poly tank, 2 billion times, or sizes of it, right? If you are talking about the, how do you call it, the 1968 times 5 of the 2 billion, that would be 10 billion, isn't it? That time, were lives lost. My reading tells me that the spillage just took its course, all right? And people didn't lose anything. I think there were some few farmlands that were lost, but property, human lives were not lost. Now people have, migrated to these places. They've turned these places into settlements, areas. And then when there's a spillage, we are talking politics. When the politician has not done anything wrong. It wasn't the politician who moved those people to go and stay there. All right? They went there for reasons. And to the best of my understanding, per the reports, they were told to vacate again attitude and behaviors. They decided to be there. You see? And some of these things we need to question. All right? We need to question. I hear there were simulations, right? What happened?
They always do annual simulations, the VRA. They have a whole public relations outfit and then community sensitization outfit.
Big.
Yes. So for me, look, I believe that in applying social marketing theory, behavioral change is very important. And if there is anything that we want to do, we need to probably educate people and to let them know, the essence of being, responsible to your own welfare and to your own future. Rather than probably you are cautioned and you think that nothing will happen. You think that when I move, the report was clear that for certain economic reluctance, all right, the person feels that, the family felt that, the man felt that when I leave, I am going to lose my daily bread, so I won't go. And what kind of behavior and attitude is that?
Yeah.
We don't need to entertain such characters. All right? We need to let people also know that if they don't care about their very lives, Ghana cares.
Okay.
Because at a point in time, you are not on your own, but you are an asset to the nation. So if Ghana must bring security to get you off and protect your life, we need to do it.
Engineer, so now we're still having the same issues. The settlements are there. Indeed, when you go along all the areas, people build on beneath the Volta River Authority pylons. Now Greatco owns those pylons now, the transmission lines. There are encroachments everywhere. So engineering is supposed to also prefer solutions. Even in the Middle East, you take the Emirates, they are able to restore land from the sea or try to get land out of the Singapore does that and all that. So engineering helps us avert some disasters as much as we can, even though the natural ones we're not able to. What solutions are there now, just quickly?
I think enforcement is one.
Enforcement?
Enforcement is one.
In what directive?
Enforcement, you see, like we said, the local assembly still acts as the brain for all development. And I want my senior brother, Eduji here, who is a politician and a very smart one for that matter. Some of them, not him. You see a lot of buildings springing up like mushrooms in question mark areas. Like? In fact, you go to the local assembly to find out what the buildings are where they are supposed to be. And you hear that there's at least a hand of a politician making sure that the assembly do not act in their powers. I have some few things to make, and your station is House of Records. If we do not take care, all the islands that we have in the Volta region, by 20, 25, 30 years, will be lost.
By 20, 25 years, yes. 30 years later?
Will be lost. He will tell you how many of the islands have been lost already due to the tidal waves. So we are facing this one, and we are facing down, upstream and downstream. The last 2023, the tidal waves, that caused a lot of issues around the area.
I went to one of them.
There was a school that was so, I mean, it has not disappeared off my memory. In fact, according to the regional minister, it's about 1 kilometer from the shore. But now it's about 3 steps away. In fact, the water inundates the whole area, and the sea sand enters to the level of the window at the time that the report was done. And then the other one is, you see, like my colleague here was saying, we shouldn't say that we are leaving the community, like he said, the president, to wallow in pain, because the hydro is not serving the Volta region only. So unfortunately, they find themselves to be in that location. But the hydro is about 1,020 megawatts of power. That distributes, in fact, that actually subsidizes the other power that we have, because that one goes to augment. So that when they put all into the pool and they ration the figures, it brings the cost of power down. The other thing is the zoning. The zoning status can only be done by the local assembly and then the Land Use and Special Planning Act. So this authority are those who are, like my colleague here was saying, if you want to evacuate the people from there, you need to zone the place. Either it's a mini industrial hub, a farmland, a residential area. And so that when you are at the assembly and people bring their document for permit to go and put up an industrial factory or a warehouse within that area, which is not zoned for such, you reject based on the zoning that you have done in the assembly. And so if you start to do this, and there has been a new law which was passed in 2022. That was the what do you call it? The local assembly law, which is the LI 2465, about the town and country law. And so that gives you the direction not to put up a structure under a high tension pole. Now you travel from Accra towards Kumasi and see how many houses are directly under the 33,
right of way.
The right of way.
It's all occupied.
But there's a new law. In fact, they've been amended in 2022, LI 1645. But so what happens that the structures are still springing up under the high tension poles. In fact, the last time one of those poles got down, within a flash, the whole area was brown. Just one. And so you can imagine if there are 10 houses underneath the high tension pole. And so like I said, maybe this is a pro bono to LG that the sea defense had to be another area that government has to prioritize, especially in our low-lying area towards the Volta region.
You know, all the places that you are talking about are places that relate to me directly. So these matters are matters of priority for me. In fact, I wish that we would even have the sea defense right up to Togo,
Yes.
so as to protect our people more importantly. But the president, together with the minister in charge of housing and Ken Ejay, Honorable, they are putting up a comprehensive list to ensure. Thankfully, the MPs within that end, the Honorable Ablaji Fagomashi and co, are on the president's neck, literally, to get those things done so as to save the life of our people. They are
so then, but please, quick, I don't know, Roland, if you permit me.
Yeah.
Another issue has to do with, Dansoman.
Glefe.
Secondly, you see the Ouija Dam.
Because of the spillage.
You understand? And you see that even people have encroached and have built.
I mean,
That's what I'm happy
I don't
about
know
the
whether
minister,
we
what
are
the minister
just,
did last 2 weeks.
excuse my language, I don't know whether we are just stubborn people. I mean, the way, I wish some people even they'll take the land from the Ouija Dam.
Yes.
They'll take the land,
Yeah.
even from the dam, and build their houses. It's a painful reality, but we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And as you're aware, I mean, just so I'll plead with you, you know, the Ministry of Energy issued a statement relative to the power crisis. 30 seconds on that.
We have doom so.
Yes.
Do you experience it too?
Oh, no, the light goes off, but I don't think this is doom so, with respect. What has happened? What has happened is that they were supposed to have shut down the power plant for maintenance. But because of the election, upcoming election, the shutdown didn't happen. So it is now that we are doing the routine maintenance together with the fault at Etiabo, the FPSO, the compressor. So that is what has compounded the gas intake. But Minister is working with the technical people, with Talo and the Jubilee Field people to get the matter resolved ASAP, together with the routine maintenance, which were all delayed because the fear was that because we're in a crucial election, if the lights were
should have been done in October.
It should have been done in October. But they deliberately deferred it because of
so that's
the
why we're
election.
having the intermittent power cuts.
That's what the problem. So now, Minister has asked that, look, it is better we shut down, maintain now, than to allow the system to, to be destroyed entirely. So I will plead with Ghanaians to bear with the president as we bring lasting solution to this energy issue. We can only plead.
Okay, we'll quote Eduji.
Yeah, we'll plead
Eduji on behalf
Ghanaians
of the Minister
with
of
patience.
Energy
One
says
more thing,
that the intermittent power cut is due to.
Oh yes, I mean these are verifiable facts.
Okay.
Because it is now that we are shutting the plants down to do the routine maintenance, which would have been done in October last year. Obviously, for other reasons, the delays happen.
How long will it take?
Usually 21 days, and it's you know,
in the area, all the wells have to be tested. I don't know whether it's in the report. Otherwise, because see, there were fecal matter on the whole surface of the area.
We'll deal with that matter one day more.
That's also another. That's a public health issue.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much,
issue.
Engineer Abdullah Mahama. Thank you for coming through. And we had wanted to have you on stream, but you decided to sacrifice your time and come. And all of you as well, Eduji, and then also Apia Dankwa, Bright Apia Dankwa.
Andrew Apia Dankwa.
Andrew Apia Dankwa. And then also Dr. Bernard Tutubuahi. Thank you very much as well. And so we started off with the Sami Jemfe issue, subsequently just landed on the latest report.
Today we are in sackcloth. Join us in this apology. Thank you.
Sackcloth. Yeah, we've got into the days of the Bible here.
Yeah, the Bible. Sackcloth and ashes.
You've also started quoting the Bible.
No, I'm not a Ken Oforiata.
No, I just wanted to clarify.
We're from this mischief.
It's not bad to quote the Bible.
Thank you. Again, let me say again, it's the birthday of my wife, Felicia, and my darling, happy birthday to you. You work with the Tema General Hospital, and this one is coming from Chairman Godwin Tamaklo, Chairman Prosper.
Yes, smiling. We know you are responsible for it. And so we want to join him.
And happy birthday to you, Felicia. Wish you all the best for the day.
Prosper and my own
Godwin Tamaklo
we are
as well.
saying that happy birthday.
And let me say good morning.
Prosper, I have to see you.
Baba Tunde.
Baba Tunde. They say that's for myself and Johnny Hughes. And so for everybody else. And then just to say good morning to a couple of Justice Sergio Jamepe as well. Good morning. And all those who are part of some great outings and over the period. I have Akoto as well, Francis Akoto. Isaac Sapon works with the MPRA, and then also very great lady, essential also of the National Communications Authority.
You know Robert Coleman?
Yeah, Robert Coleman,
you know
Wembley Sports Construct.
Oh, okay, such a great
you should
guy.
contact him to construct some...
I beg you.
Not here, okay.
I beg you.
We're taking a break. We'll be right back.
No commitment there.
Master.